Um, we decided to try the Zoom platform, not only to see graphics and to see our people from ODOT, because it's been a long time, guys. You've been working at home, and I know from what I understand, you will be working at home through December, coming back January 4th-ish. Is that correct?
The word was at least till January 4th.
Okay.
We're guessing it'll be probably spring or summer of next year, realistically.
Almost a full year. That's just crazy.
March 19th will be a year for me, so it's a good chance of that. Crazy.
Wow. Wow. Um, well, great. Well, we thank you for joining us. For those of you on the call, we have Lloyd McAdam, Assistant Director and Chief Engineer of ODOT. We have Dave Holstein, Deputy Director. And we have Susan Steele. Susan, are you on?
I am, yes.
Welcome. We're welcoming you to the ACEC Ohio Transportation Committee as your first time with us in the role of acting administrator. So welcome.
Thank you.
Um,
Hey, Beth, let me
yeah,
correct you. Susan Staley.
Staley, I'm sorry.
There you go. You don't know because now you do. So
Thank you. I was trying to figure out how to turn my video on, but I'm having issues. If I can get it, I'll turn my video on here in a second.
lower left is where I found it, Susan.
Oh, there we go. Thank you.
Yep.
There she is.
Yep, there she
Okay.
is.
And you are joined by about 50 ACEC Ohio member companies today. I sent a list out earlier so you kind of knew who was on the call. You can check the participants down again along the bottom. You can see who the participants are. But I'm going to turn it over to you. Lloyd, did you want to start to talk about where you are with funding?
I will, yes.
Okay.
Yes. Let me give you some of the background and stuff like that. So, welcome everybody. Thanks for having us, Beth. All you ACC members, thanks for listening to us. And it's great to see some of you from at least through a virtual environment. I've actually got to see many of you through some of the meet and greets we've been having at central office and other things. And I will encourage all of you, if you haven't had meet and greets with your districts or central office, those are the virtual ones, and they're actually quite interesting. We actually got a compliment from one of the members yesterday on a meet and greet that ODOT is more responsive because of this technology. So because we don't have people bothering us and interrupting us and doing all those things. So it's kind of a good compliment to have that actually we've become more responsive because of these great communication tools. So let me give you a little bit of the revenue, obviously. So most of you know that 98% of the funding that ODOT gets comes from gas tax, whether that be from state revenue or the federal revenue and not all of it from the federal government is now gas tax anymore because of the trust fund being insolvent at this point. So, what we were planning on getting was basically 1.7 billion from state motor vehicle user fee or gas tax, and we were planning on getting our 1.4 billion from the federal government, and that's obviously adds up to 3.1 billion. We actually have a budget of 3.28 or 3.3 billion. So the one thing that's being affected by this COVID for us is the our biggest funding pot, the state revenue, 1.7 billion. So, and that 1.7 billion was obviously went up once we passed the new revenue package year and a half ago now. So that number, for the first time in a long time now, the state revenue is now our biggest funding source versus our federal revenue because of this increased motor vehicle user fee. So how did our state revenue do during the first 4 months of COVID? We actually have that data now. The last time we talked, I think we only had a month or two of that. We now have 4 months of data. So in March, we were down 14% in revenue. If you recall, COVID hit about the middle of March. And probably the week of the 16th through the 20th is when we all kind of probably started to go home and working from home. But that 14% is basically a 19.9 million less of revenue coming from the motor vehicle user fees. April was our worst month by far. That was obviously pretty much the complete shutdown, and we were 33% down in April, and that represented a $51.1 million revenue reduction in our state motor vehicle user fees. In May, we were down 27%, and that 27% was our second worst month. And that represented 44.6 million. And in June, we just got the tally for June taxation, and we were about 10% down in June, which represented 14.3 million. When you add that 19.9, the 51.1, the 44.6, and the 14.3 million together, that's basically $130 million that we're down in 2020, and that is our 2020. You'll recall early on in the pandemic when we didn't know how bad this thing was going to be, we were making some reduction or we moved some projects out in 2020, and those projects were the 4R project and I-70/71 split in downtown Columbus, as well as a Hamilton 74/75 project down in the Cincinnati area. Those projects equated to about $208 million of projects moved out of 2020 into 2021. So on top of the 300 plus million we had in 2021 already in track, we moved two other track projects into 2021. So now we're about 500 million in track projects that were scheduled for 2021. So let's take a look at our traffic numbers. So Dave, if you can try to share that traffic chart that we've got up there. I've
right,
got it
let me
in my
try
background.
this.
See what you can do that. So these are the traffic numbers. They're basically a weekly average of the traffic basically during the pandemic. Perfect. Can you maximize that a little bit bigger so we can see that?
I don't know.
Okay. All right. Leave right there where you got right now, Dave, and I'll have you move in a second. So basically, slide it up just slightly so I can read those dates in the bottom there, Dave. There you go. Got it. So you can see back in early March that we were pretty well about 0% or 3. And the blue line represents autos. The red line represents cars, and the red line represents the trucks. So you can see that we were pretty steady. We were 3% above on trucks, and we were pretty much at where we were. And this is compared to, these are from our ADT counters across the state. 185 of them are being counted. And so you can see very quickly we started dropping 3%, 6%, and then minus 1% and 31%, and then boom, minus 11% and 50% down in ADT across the state. This is all across the state. And you can see how we stayed that way 50, 50, 51, 50, and then started to slowly come back into that there. And you can see over the last, say, 8 weeks, we've pretty much stabilized. You can see 17, 17, 16, 16, 16, 17, 17, 18, 16 on the cars. And the trucks, believe it or not, for those last 6 weeks anyway, have been above. So the trucks actually for over the last two plus months have been, for the most part, above average when compared to the truck traffic of a year ago. So rather interesting facts there. So Dave, let's try to slide down here and see the percentages of reductions across the state there. So this is the monthly changes. You can see January we were actually 4.96% up. We were pretty close to the same at February, and then down 20% in March, down 44.5% in April, May, obviously coming back 30% down, and then 15.5. Actually peaked at 13.4% down in July, but we've actually started to go back for whatever reason in August. Actually started to go down. So slide down to the bottom of that chart now, David, and we'll see if we can get to the numbers on the, yeah, here we go. There you go. Perfect. Right there. So you can, let's start around Memorial Day. You can see we were 26% down, then 22% down in May 31st, 18%. And now we pretty much stabilized. Once we hit the middle of June, 15, 15, 15, 14, 13, 14, 15, and then 16% down. So we stabilized for 15% for about 3 weeks, started to go down even more, 14 and 13%. Back up to 14, back up to 15, and the last report we got was dated the 2nd through the 8th statewide, and that bottom number, the 16%, is a statewide average. We're down 16% now. So
Here's the
yeah, there's
the
the chart.
roads.
And we've actually broken up by region. You can see northeast, northwest, southwest, central, and rural. And you can see for the most part, some the rural is further back than most, 11%. So, and I can confirm that. I live in the rural area in Eastern and over here in New Philadelphia, and we're definitely nearly back to normal in my region. I would say very, very close to that. So what we're doing then is since you see the numbers from June were basically 10% down, we basically are projecting for 2021, the remainder of 2021, which fiscal year would take us to the end of June next year, we're projecting a 10% reduction for the rest of the year because we're right in that 15% range we were through June. So we think we're going to be about the same of that. We're getting a little, it kind of freaks us out that it is going back the other way at 16%, but we think that that's probably a good average for the rest of the year. That equates to roughly another $150 million in revenue reductions for us, very close to that. So that's our program. Unfortunately, we lost 130 million in 2020, and now we've got another 150 million or more to deal with from 2021. So ODOT, given that information, has made the concerted decision. We've shared this decision with the County Engineers Association, our local governments, and our cities and MPOs, that we are going to continue all of our programs the same way we have in the past. So we're going to continue to do all those reforms. So the major bridge program, the major local bridge major local bridge programs, all of our CEAO programs, every one of our safety programs are all going to continue. Where we're going to make our revenue reductions is in through our major new program or our track program. And I would invite each of you to get more detail on exactly what this means for the projects going forward by listening to our track meeting tomorrow. Tomorrow at 10 a.m. we have a track meeting. It's a live track meeting that will be held virtually, much like this meeting here. And we'll talk. The director will be talking very specific on dollar amounts and projects that we'll be looking at, and that's going to evolve. So we're not sure what exactly projects are the highest priorities for the track board, but we'll begin to start that process through tomorrow, and potentially in the September and October meetings as well. So tune in tomorrow to the track meeting. The way you do that is just simply get on ODOT's website and go to the track part of the website and the track portion of the website, and you can, there's a link right there where you can get onto and watch the live track meeting tomorrow at 10 a.m. One other thing, a final thing before I turn it over to Dave to talk about 30-day review and Susan to talk about those items. I would also invite the members of ACEC to join the DBE Matchmaker event that we've got scheduled for September the 15th. Currently up to date from Beth's report to me yesterday, 14 primes have already signed up and 40 DBEs have signed up for this event. And if you've not signed up for this event as a member of ACEC, you really should be. And we really want to continue to develop our DBE program to help us meet our goals. Just so you know, our goal is to get about 15.6% of our program projects dollars spent on DBEs through some of our programs. So that's a goal that we have, and that's the goals that get set by Susan and her group now. So David, I'm going to turn it over to you unless there's, we don't want questions till the end, Beth, or we want to just move on to the next part?
I think move on to the next part, and then if we have time for questions, we'll do that.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll turn it over to Dave to talk about 30-day review and also the other information from Dave.
Thanks, Lloyd. I don't have a ton, so this shouldn't take very long. As y'all know, former Chief Engineer Barna implemented a flat 30-day review. It's not written down anywhere. You'll not find it in any manuals. You'll not find it anywhere. It's just sort of the way we do things. And it has caused some issues from you all. You've brought that to our attention a number of times. And quite frankly, it's caused a number of issues for us. And so we decided, rather than just talk about it, we're going to see if we can come up with a proposal. So Lloyd challenged us to come up with a proposal. Our CPAs have stepped up. We've finalized that, and I'm going to be sharing it with Beth today. And Beth, you can share it with the Transportation Committee or whoever you think to get appropriate comment, but we feel pretty good about it. And essentially, within certain limits, basically 14 to 60 days, we want to accurately reflect in Ellis what the schedule is going to be. We have a number of limitations on our side, staffing, subject matter experts being overwhelmed. So when we set these schedules up, we want them to be meaningful and not just an arbitrary 30-day. That will allow us to plan our resources better and hopefully allow you to plan your resources better too. So we want to basically get more realistic with it within a framework of 40 to 60 based on complexity and things like that. It will also address some of the ambiguities that are out there. So what happens if about partial review comments, things of those that really are just sort of nebulous at the moment. It goes into a lot of detail. So we're going to be sharing that with ACEC. Looking forward to your comments, your input. Have at it. The other topic is was an idea that came out of the 360 evaluations. Um, an idea to try and get more specific feedback. And so what we did is we asked ACEC to give us, 4 or 5 members, representative members, who would sit down with 4 of our CPAs, along with myself and Susan, and just see if we can just have very candid, frank discussions. And it went on for, Al, you were one of, what was it, an hour and 15 minutes, hour and 20 minutes. We actually went into overtime a little bit. But what came out of it was a challenge from the CPA. And it was a challenge to ACEC to give us the top 3 improvement areas that we can focus on. And we're asking them to be things that are specific and actionable, right? Please don't give us a list of things that are kind of esoteric. Give us 3 actionable things that can help you, help the process, help us all deliver the program, and we'll take a whack at it, and we'll start there. So um, I think it was very interesting. I hope the ACEC members found it beneficial. I don't think it's something that we do every month, but I do think it's potentially one of those tools in the toolbox for improving our communications and getting feedback. So, with that's pretty much all I had. Susan. Susan.
Yes. Thanks, Dave. I just wanted to touch base on the updates we've made to our subconsultant payment system. As I'm sure you're all aware, as part of ODOT's conciliation agreement with FHWA, we've had to make some of these updates. We are now requiring the prime to report payments to all their subconsultants, regardless of the sub's DBE or EDGE status, and to report on the payments on a monthly basis as opposed to a quarterly basis. So we've rolled out some enhancements to our subconsultant payment system, and those enhancements are now live. So you can begin transitioning and entering this new information. But just note that the changes will be required beginning October 1st of this year. So we've sent out an announcement earlier this week. I'm sure everybody has seen it, but if you have any questions or any issues as you move forward with those requirements, just please let me know.
Let me share why we're doing this so you guys understand. So if you don't know, ODOT's been under conciliatory agreement with Federal Highway for some time now, and this is one of the areas where we are falling short on our agreement from Federal Highway on our oversight of our basically payment of our sub consultants through this process. So that's the reason this is being done, and we have no choice. We have to do this. So unfortunately, you guys have no choice, and you're going to have to help us in this. So we implore you to please reach out to us and help us in this matter. Thank you.
Yeah, and this is very important to ODOT, and it is going to be tracked. It is going to be reported on regularly, both internally and to Federal Highway. And so please, if it's not entirely clear what our expectations are, or you need help, or you have questions, please reach out now before it becomes mandatory, because we don't want anybody to get into a bad position because they failed to follow through on this. It's that important. So please reach out to us. We will help you if we can.
Right.
While we're on this topic, Susan, I did see a note on here that there's a question, so you can address that question. Is there a training for the sub-consultant payment system? So
Yes, I just saw that as too. We have instructions already posted on our website, and so we have now updated that instruction sheet to include the new requirements, the timeliness of monthly, and that it's for all sub-consultants now, regardless of their DBE or EDGE status. So we have updated that instruction sheet on our webpage. So any other questions, though, please let me know.
and Beth, I can answer the one question that's already been posted up there on the hiring freeze. So Mr. Beal asked the question, can you update the group on your hiring freeze? If you have an update, and you have a lot of districts that are down many engineers, which eventually could challenge ODOT on our program delivery. I actually got a report from on our governance board yesterday that we are down 69 people at the district level. Roughly half of those are HTs, but the rest of them are mostly engineers. We're having a wave of retirements due to some of the factors of our current basically salaries that we're getting over the recently. If you haven't heard, ODOT is not only on a hiring freeze, but we did the exempt employees, which are basically our management employees, did not get a raise, the cost of living raise like the rest of our employees, and we also
Pay cut
all exempt employees are also cost saving days we have to take. So
or pay cut, as some of
yeah,
us like to call it.
yeah. So yeah, Dave likes to call it the massive pay cut we just got. So, but it is significant. We were supposed to get a raise, and we were supposed to work the regular 2,080 hours like the rest of you. Unfortunately, now we're going to be 2,000 hours for this year. But as far as the hiring freeze, let's talk about that. We have been on a hiring freeze since basically the COVID thing started near the end of March. The governor put all state agencies on a hiring freeze, and we are on that. Continue to be on that hiring freeze. We've been able to get a few things, some interns for our help, and we're able to get some seasonal people for our snow and ice people. But basically, we've not been able to hire anybody on this. And at this point, we don't know of anything that any end date of that. We're hopeful that maybe sometime we get some sort of an end date, but at this point, we're on that hiring freeze, and we're going to be on that hiring freeze for the foreseeable future until probably there's an avenue out of COVID, I would guess. So, but all state agencies, including the Department of Transportation, are on a hiring freeze, and that's just the fact of the matter. So we're dealing with it the best we can.
Yeah, which makes, realistic schedules and expectations even more important, right? Um, we have a lot of challenges on our end, not only from the hiring freeze, but just we have a lot of factors. So to loop back to the 30-day review, I think it's even more important now than ever that we can give you a realistic schedule so you can expect to get our comments back.
Looks like we have another question for you, Susan.
Yes, we have had one instance already where the data in the subconsultant payment system seemed to be incorrect. So we're having our IT department follow up on that. But if you do notice errors in your data, do please let me know so we can address it.
Susan, you want to give us your best contact information via email or your telephone?
I
Just
can be reached either way.
use your email.
Yeah.
My email's fine.
Yes. So I'm assuming it's just your name at dot.ohio.gov.
Yep.
Yes.
Susan.staley@dot.ohio.gov.
Got it.
I don't see any more questions in the chat box, but Al, did you want to fill the group in on the meeting Friday? Dave touched on it, but what all was discussed, and as Dave said, we're looking for actionable items from our membership, and we'll also send that out via email, Dave, so we can get some good feedback for you.
Yeah, for those of you on the call, if you remember, it's been, probably, Dave, I can't remember when that survey went out from ODOT, but it's been a while. Lloyd spearheaded the drive to do a 360 feedback survey with our industry, with ODOT, and how they're performing. And so for those of you on the call that participated in the survey, again, Beth and I want to thank you for participating, as well as Lloyd, because what came out of the call that we had Friday, and it was a liaison committee that met with a handful of ODOT CPAs along with Dave last Friday. Dave, help me out here. We had Chris Pridemore, Chad Root, Mike Kubik, Stefan down in District 8, and
Tom Slack.
Yes, Tom Slack were on that call. They volunteered to represent ODOT on that committee. But we finally had our first call, our first meeting regarding the 360 feedback survey to talk about the results of the survey. On our side, it was Mike Chodala, on the liaison committee, Beth Fulton, Bill Marty, who couldn't talk too much because he had just had mouth surgery, but that's okay. Beth and myself. And again, it was really to go over globally the results of the survey, what ODOT saw when the districts got the results of the survey. What came out of it was an hour and 15-minute discussion. It was a great discussion. Clearly, the sense I got coming off the call is that, ODOT wants to get better. There's, the relationship between us and the department and how that relationship gels and evolves. Clearly, there's an indication that the CPAs want to know how they're performing in their districts, and then they also want to try to get better in how they're performing, especially because, as we just talked earlier, I mean, with the amount of new employees at ODOT that are coming up into project management roles and learning and everything, just trying to get them acclimated to what it means to be a PM. So we had a large discussion on that and what have you. But what came out of the exercise was there were so many comments that came back from the 360 survey that we were tasked, one of our homework assignments, and Beth and I are going to be working on this with our transportation committee. We were tasked to come up with 3 tangible things that we could ask ODOT to focus on improving on as a department as a whole, not just specific to one district. Because again, for those that saw the comments on the 360 feedback, I mean, there was a lot, and some of it was specific to a district. A lot of it was, global, applies across the board. But one of the things we were tasked to do as an industry was to come up with those 3 things that we think should be a primary focus for ODOT, something that's tangible, something that's, they can measure that they're improving on. So Beth, I don't know how you want to go about getting that communication other than just shooting ACC, shooting Beth, an email if you have 3 topics or 3 things, or even if you have one thing, just something to kind of guide us as to where you think ODOT should focus on improving in the relationship between the PMs and on the department side and how we interact with those folks. So again, we're going to have future meetings. This was just our first kickoff meeting. I think we came off that call, Lloyd, with the commitment that you're going to continue doing the 360 survey on an annual basis or whatever as a way to benchmark that the dial's being moved. And so again, real good. I came out of the conversation, and Beth, if you want to chime in on your take on it, but I came out of the conversation with a real feel of a commitment to the department and trying to get better and how they interact with the consultant community.
Thanks, Al. I think there was a comment from Bob Campbell. He had a question about the 30-day review. No? Bob? Okay.
Bob, if you can hear me, just give me a call. Back to the three actionable things. I'll give you a couple examples. So y'all brought to our attention that you needed more time, more advance notice for the programmatic. So we went to a 10 best we can, 10 weeks. The 30-day review was something that was constantly brought up, and so we're trying to take action on it. It's those sort of things that we can take some kind of improvement, make some kind of improvement to is really what we're looking for. Give us your top 3 and we'll work on them.
And the other thing, just to let the group know too, and again, I can only speak on behalf of the CPAs that were actually on the call, because not all 12 of them were on the call. But all of them, I think on numerous occasions on the call said, hey, if you're having a problem in my district, please let me know. I mean, when you think about what they're responsible for, because again, in that role of CPA, they also have the construction wing under their umbrella. And so they can't necessarily get into the weeds of the day to day. So if something isn't going right, they may not be aware of it. And so again, I know Chad brought it up, Mike brought it up. I think at some point in the call, every CPA made the comment that if you're having a problem with something on a project in their district that you can't seem to gain any traction on, that you should feel very comfortable to reach out to them to let them know, and then they'll look into it and see what needs to be done in order to get things moving again.
Beth, I've got a couple of closing comments here, if I wouldn't mind. Number one, most of you have probably heard by now, but one of your former members, I guess now, soon to be a former member, Howard Wood, is going to be the executive director of Drive Ohio, effective next Monday, the 31st. So we're excited about Howard joining the ODOT team again in a critical role, and we're expecting great things from Howard as he leads our Drive Ohio efforts there, and we want to continue to be on the forefront of this technology revolution that is Drive Ohio. So that's exciting. Also, an update on the programmatic in September. There were some late ads to that programmatic, if you didn't notice that. So make sure you print off the Monday latest list from Susan. 4 new safety jobs were added from Michelle's group, basically dealing with the design, or excuse me, the studies of the new, the latest 150 list. And there was also one project, a construction inspection project for the large 6R project in Columbus, that was removed due to the fact that that project's probably not going to sell in the current time frames that we've had. So that project was removed. So make sure you're up to date and get the latest programmatic before it comes out here in a couple weeks.
Great. Well, we will send a follow-up email to the full committee and review what we talked about today, as well as this is recorded, because we did limit attendance from our committee to 1 person per company. So we appreciate your time. Susan, welcome aboard. And we'll look forward to following up with you on the action items we just talked about.
Thanks, guys. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Everybody have a great day.
Bye.
Thank you.